Hi everyone, this is going to be a continuation of the foliage demo. At this point you should have your leaves or plant leaves, whatever you're making, modeled and colored and textured, looking something like this. I have this plane in the background just to help for framing. Um, so I'm going to go up to Document, turn off Pro, set the document size to 2K, so 2048 for width and height. I'm going to hit resize, and it's going to resize the document. I'm going to hit Control N to clear off the canvas, and I'm just going to drag back out and go into edit mode and hit F to frame up our texture. So we are good to go now. One note, just to be careful of, make sure that when you're using this plane that it doesn't pass through the leaves. Just make sure that it's back far enough that it doesn't pass through. It should be relatively close, just not clipping off your leaves. Let's hit F again just to frame this back up. So first we're going to go ahead and do our diffuse texture, which is just our albedo. So let's go up to render and go down to render BPR shadows, make sure those are off. Render properties, turn shadows off, and click on flat. So this is our albedo texture. And we're just going to go up to texture and grab dock. And there is our color texture. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and do our normal map. And to do this, let's go up to render. Let's go ahead and turn on preview. And we'll make sure that everything looks good here, which it does. Let's go ahead and turn our texture off as well. And I'm going to go over here to our tool menu and grab a simple brush, and it's going to say, do you want to do this stuff? And you do. So let's go ahead and hit switch. So now this is flat. Let's go ahead and let's turn our Z intensity all the way up, RGB intensity all the way up, and let's go over to our material, switch that to RGB, and that's not what we want. Okay, let's go ahead and now do our normal map. Let's go up to render and make sure preview is on. Let's grab our simple brush, and we're going to say switch. And let's go ahead and turn that to drag rectangle for our brush. Go down to our normal RGB material here, and we're just going to click and drag. And now, so now we've got our normal map. Let's go up to render and turn on best. And this is going to take a second, so I'm going to pause the video and just let this resolve. I'll be right back. Okay, now that that's done rendering, we have our normal map. So we're just going to go up to texture and grab dock. So now we've got that. And let's go ahead and export this. And we're just going to call this normal. All right, let's go ahead and just clear this canvas off. So just hit Control N. Okay, then now we've got the canvas cleared off. Let's go ahead and just drag out another version here. Go to Edit, hit F, change our mat cap here. Hit F again. So now we're just going to go ahead and go to Alpha and click Grab Dock. So this is going to be our height map. So let's go ahead and export that. All right, so there's our height map. And I don't think I exported our color, so let's go ahead and just do that again real quick. Let's go to Flat, and Render Properties, turn Shadows off. Looks good. Go to Texture, Grab Dock. Now we've got that. We can just export from here. Now let's just call this Diffuse. And let's go ahead and just hit yes to that. And I think that's all of our textures. Let's go ahead and head over to Substance Designer and process these a little bit. Be right back. Okay, here we are in Substance Designer. We're just going to do a little bit of work in here, nothing crazy, just to kind of get you introduced to it. So let's go up to File, New Substance, Physically Based Metallic Reference is fine. Let's just call this Leaf. We're at 2K. All the rest of this stuff should be fine. Let's hit OK. And I'm just going to grab my diffuse in the height and the normal. I'm just going to drag these in here and link resources and hit OK. So now we've got these guys in here. So we could pipe this color into our base color. This is just kind of a nice way to organize everything. So let's pipe that into normal. For our height, we'll pump that in the height. Let's go ahead and make an output. So hit the spacebar and just type in OT and you get output. And then we'll drag this down here. And over, let's go ahead and set what the output is. So let's click add an item. And we want this to be an alpha. And let's make this opacity. That's right. That should look good. All right. So now let's take our height map here and let's plug in a level. So spacebar L, and we'll just make a levels. Just plug this into that output. Let's call this output alpha, like so. Plug this back into our height. So go into our levels here, and let's go ahead and just crunch these down. Basically just want a nice solid white. Just basically making our alpha channel here, like so. So I just kind of messed around with these a little bit just to get rid of any of the shadows in there. And there's our alpha. That looks right. So let's right click and go to View in 3D and go to Opacity just to make sure it's working. And it is. We can see it down here. Let's go ahead and change this to a cylinder, or a sphere rather. That's scene and then sphere, just so we can kind of see what's going on. For our roughness, let's go ahead and grab our albedo. Okay, I forgot a step here, so let's go ahead and do a grayscale conversion to our albedo here. That's what I wanted. Let's go ahead and pump that into a levels. And now what we want to do with the levels is just invert this. So I'm just going to drag these guys like so. And this is going to be our roughness map. So white equals rough and black equals not rough, so shiny. So we just kind of want to wash these out just a bit. Let's go ahead and just kind of tweak these a little bit. I think that'll work fine. Let's go ahead and plug that into our roughness. For our metallic, let's go ahead and hold down the 1 key and click. Oh, wrong software, sorry. Let's go ahead and do it the old school way. Let's go ahead and just, we want a constant. That's not it. It's color, uniform color. So let's just type in uniform color, pump that into our metallic, and we're good to go. So now that we've got all of our maps kind of set up and ready to go, we can just go ahead and grab these. So grab this alpha here. You can see I'm just double clicking on this, and I'm just going to go ahead and click this little disk up here and save that. So let's go ahead and find a folder. I'll just make a new folder. Let's call this leaves. We'll call this leaf 1 alpha. Save that, double click. Leaf 1 height. I'm just going to do that for all of these. We don't need to do the metallic. For roughness, let's go ahead and do a leaf 1 rough. Go to our normal. Leaf 1 normal. And our diffuse. We'll call this leaf 1 diffuse. Okay, now that we've got our maps done, let's go ahead and head over to Maya and I will show you how to construct the geometry. Okay, one quick step before we head over to Maya. This is kind of a step to help us in Maya. I've just got our diffuse color loaded up here in Photoshop and our alpha. I'm going to hit Control A and copy our alpha, go back to our diffuse, make a new channel, and then paste it in. So now we have an alpha channel, and I'm going to go File, Save As, Diffuse, save it as a target file with alpha channel checked, and hit Save. And go to 30 to make sure 32-bit is selected, and that's it. So that'll help us do some visualization in Maya. So let's go ahead and go over to Maya, and I'll clear this out, delete it. Let's go ahead and make a plane, scale it up a bit. Change the resolution to 1 by 1, like so. I'm going to turn the grid off. And let's go ahead and open up our Hypershade. And I'm going to make a new Lambert. Double click on it, go to Color, click on File, browse to our target file for color. And there's our color map. And I'm just going to click and drag this on. And these textures are specifically just for us to visualize. So we don't, this stuff is just going to get piped into Unreal later. But we need to see how we're going to make our geometry. So for this, it's relatively simple. We're just going to cut this into pieces in a logical way. And we want to cut it basically out of this plane. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, to go ahead and start cutting this up, we're just going to use our knife tool, just your typical kind of workflow for this stuff. Let's Let's go ahead and just kind of start chopping this apart. And these guys are pretty big and kind of close together, so this might take a little bit of doing here. So I'm going to double click on our move tool and make sure that we've got preserve UVs on, because I don't want to mess around with the UVs here. Or rather, I don't want to mess them up. So let's go ahead and grab these verts, just start moving them around. And this is going to be a little bit of, it's not time consuming, but it's definitely boring to watch. So I'm just going to crunch through this and you'll just kind of see what I'm doing. And we don't have to be super optimized with this, since we're not really going into a game engine per se. But we definitely want to make them relatively low res, just to get into the habit of being optimized. So I'm just going to fiddle around with this for a little bit and just keep watching. So right now I'm just extracting these off into their own separate mesh. So now I'm just going to go through and just optimize these a little bit, just clean them up, and then we'll be done. Well, we'll be done with this part anyways. And we'll move on to shaping our plant. Really the point of this is to make sure you've got relatively no empty space. I'm going to keep the overdraw down. So as simple as we can get it. And that one's good. And we're also going to be using modifiers on this, so sometimes it's good to have a little bit of extra geometry just so the bends hold up. Let's go ahead and check this one out. I think that's going to work. Just going to add a little bit more resolution to this. That one's good. So if you can see, we got a little bit of an error here, so let's just go ahead and move these in a little bit, like so. Go ahead and check this one out. I think that one's done. And one last one here. This one's pretty ugly, so it's going to take a second to get this back to where it should be. All right, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and turn our grid back on and get these guys just kind of lined up for ourselves here. I'm going to center the pivots on all of these. Freeze transforms and center pivots, just normal cleanup stuff. Now I'm just aligning these real quick just for sanity's sake. All right, so now you've got a nice lineup of leaves. So next up, I'm not going to get into making stems because they're basically just cylinders, but I do want to show you how you can edit these and make them a bit more dimensional. So for this one, let's just grab this center edge, go to move, let's turn on our soft select, make it pretty wide, and just move it up. Now you're going to start to see we've got a bend going here, like so, and let's go ahead and grab these verts down here, do a little bit of a rotation, like that. And that looks good. Let's go ahead and do this with the rest of these. All right, one thing I want to do is turn off my preserve UVs. Let's just check that for a minute. And I can see this one's a bit too pointed, so I'm going to turn that preserve back on. Turn off my soft select and just kind of fix that a bit. There we go. Another thing I like to do is just go to mesh display and soften edge. That'll kind of add to the softness as well. And one last one. And it looks good. So now if I take these and rotate them and place them around, you can see we've got the start of some really nice looking leaves. And we can grab these. Really don't have to worry about the back sides of the plants. If you want to make them double-sided, you can turn a double-sided shader on. But we're not going to mess around with that here because these are going into Unreal. So that is it. This is what I expect you guys to have for Monday. And I'll see you then.